Okay. So if you've been anywhere on any black portion of Twitter, you've probably seen this tweet pop up. And we're going to have to get into and explain all this because this tweet requires some unpacking for the full context of the situation. So let's start with Zen. Zenoshima is a 26-year-old Sonic Twitter figurehead. Zen primarily grew up from their very informative and heavily opinionated threads about where the franchise is going direction-wise, their thoughts and opinions, and how they have seen things shift over time. Zen has received numerous amounts of controversy for the way that they articulate themselves in conversation with other users. If you followed Zen for any time period, you would know that they are quick to throw out genuine jabs of questionability, I like to call it. Their ability to talk to other people, at least to me, feels very reminiscent of that early Xbox era. I'm talking your MW2 lobbies, I'm talking about your Black Ops lobbies, I'm talking about your hopping on gun game with the boys way back when. Zen is a byproduct of growing up in that Newgrounds era, okay? The internet was a lot more harsh, even though I would argue in some ways that it's even harsher now. However, Zen is aware of the Twitter dynamics, the Twitter politics. See, ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter, it's no secret that the platform has become noticeably more hostile. In fact, if you have been a follower of this channel, you would know that way back in one of my earliest videos to gain some sort of traction, I talked about Sonic Twitter dynamics. In fact, I even had a section in that video where I dubbed Zen the King Von of Sonic Twitter, and I listed some of the issues that people had with them. Noticeably, I mentioned that one of the issues that people have with Zen is because they are a black queer person. We will come back to that one. However, the core crux of the issue that people have with Zenoshima is that they tend to be abrasive. They talk to people like they're in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby, and for a lot of people that is off-putting and not something that they want to have appear on their timeline on a day-to-day basis. Back in that video, I drew attention to the fact that Zen has stood on their 10 toes when it comes to supporting the queer community, especially the black queer community within the Sonic the Hedgehog community. I'm not going to dig through everything that Zen has been in conflict with. If you've been in the space, you know, but I'd like to draw attention to one issue in particular. Way back in May of this year, there was this Twitter account floating around called K.Funnies. If you've been on Twitter, you know about irony posting, you know about all of it, but he essentially was just going on and talking about things in a way that felt very demeaning, felt like he was making fun of black people as a whole, the misuse of AAV. Now, to a lot of people, they might see that and don't care. I've seen a lot of people try to write off AAV as brain rot language and things of that nature, even in my own workplace. And like sometimes, like as a black person, you just got to hear that and then just let that shit go. But for those of you who are unaware, AAAV, African American Vernacular English, is a dialect specific within black communities. And while it might sound ghetto to someone who hasn't been around it, that language is actually so complex. It has so many different deviations from standardized English. Noticeably, the amount of double negatives that are present within typical AAAV sentence structure. There's so many ways you can go into it, and I'm not a linguist, but if you take any anthropology class and you were to say something along those lines, they'd probably hit you with a brick if they were a half-decent anthropologist. But when it comes to taking how black people communicate with one another, accounts like K.Funnies at the time were using that as the punchline of their joke, along with just generally being corny. Zenoshima acknowledged the fact that, hey, K.Funnies was a young kid at the time and probably didn't understand why people would take offense or people would not like the fact that they felt like they were minimizing AAAV. K.Funnies essentially was like, dog, I low-key don't care, and the wider Twitter community looked at Zenoshima trying to at least talk casually with a younger individual, and they took it as Zen beefing with a 19-year-old. But I draw attention to the situation because Zen was very outspoken about how things are perceived by other people outside of black communities. This will be important later, please pay attention. But throughout that situation, it later developed into Zen's own Discord server being swarmed by individuals who were siding with K.Funnies, people who thought it was awesome to send horrific imagery, gore, result in the aftermath of having gore and people being weird in your own personal circle is utterly disgusting, and I don't care how you slice it. I don't care, we're not talking about that It happened months ago. K.Funnies eventually deactivated their account, and I think they came back or something, but nobody cares anymore. But that case, remember, I mentioned that it was very known that Zen is aware about how other people perceive the black community, especially on places like Twitter, which are prone to negativity and all other bad assets of the internet. Now we jump to the modern era. A Twitter account posted a collection of games from the PS2 era that they were interested in playing. Then responded with a clip from The Legends of Chamberlain High, a South Park-esque show that has recently blown up in popularity. Okay, keep in mind, this show aired in 2016. It's almost been 10 whole years, and the show suddenly reappeared on TikTok and clips have been going viral. I'm telling you, when I said at the start of this video that this situation involves so much nuance and online stuff and understanding social groups and dynamics, I was not kidding. That was a whole conversation, but essentially the meme of when a game don't have a bow or a gun in it blew up. Basically suggesting the idea that, hey, y'all don't like playing any other games unless you can shoot people or play a sport in it. But commonly enough, if you have actual friends in real life, and if you've been around, black people love to play basketball and sports and Call of Duty. My own dad, for example, my dad's been a gamer. My dad put me on the games. My dad buys Call of Duty and Madden every year without fail. He likes playing them. And back in the early 2000s on the PS2 era, you had so many different options. I'm not going to list them all, but you had NBA Jam, you had NBA Live, you had so many different options, and all these games played differently. They had different mechanics. You could be good at one of them and be completely awful at the other because those games were not just simple copy and paste roster updates like how they are today. I think the game ball gun people are not wrong for attempting to look back at an era of games that they grew up with where each game that released felt different from one another. However, Zen drops her tweet, and if anything, this is where the situation should have ended. Someone's like, hey, I want to play these games. Zen responds, you're black, with a joke basically being, you're black, lol. And then we should all go home. But as you know, things got a little bit crazy. Hood Genius enters the chat. Hood Genius, if you know, but again, I'm making this for those who don't. Hood Genius has essentially been labeled as Twitter's main character, a title only reserved for the most, we'll say, important individual when it comes to website discussion. Hood Genius gained this title after having an argument with the United States Homeland Security Twitter account about misinformation. So essentially, the US government is beefing with a NBA Twitter account. And off of that, Hood Genius has kind of become the man of the people, the hero of the hour, the Spider-Man swinging around town. Off of that, and Hood Genius is noticeable because they were an NBA Twitter account. NBA Twitter is kind of like the godfather to agenda posting and slander. Any meme you've ever seen kind of has ties dating back to NBA Twitter, the fake accounts. NBA Sentinel, probably the biggest parody account of all time. All of it originates with NBA Twitter, and NBA Twitter is known for being, how else could I say, batshit insane. I promise you, even if you know very little about basketball, you will walk away being flabbergasted. And keep in mind, NBA Twitter's demographic are more than likely going to be the people who are more interested in buying the 2Ks, the Call of Duties, compared to Zen, where they exist in that niche of Sonic the Hedgehog and other interests. Hood Genius gets involved and they quote retweet Zen, and this is where everything goes AWOL. Now, that is the pretext. That is everything that happened beforehand. And in the aftermath, now, I mentioned earlier in the video, Zenoshima is aware of how Twitter dynamics work, about how their actions, because they are black, is unfortunately going to be seen by a majority white audience. That is true for almost anything involving, right, having a presence in media. Hip-hop, despite being a black genre, when you go to the concerts, on average, you're going to see a bunch of non-black people there, okay? With that in mind, Zen is aware of this and they are aware of the fact that they are a figurehead within the Sonic community. But Zen has this little thing, this little green goblin mask staring at them. They love to troll and rage bait. Again, Zen has such an extensive history, I don't feel like digging it all up, but one I would like to draw attention to is there was a period in time where Zen thought it'd be hilarious to go and whitewash one of the actors in the Sonic movie to role play as a edgy individual. I shit you not, this is the tweet. Oh, and you look at the replies and people are confused on whether or not that is Zenoshima. I mentioned Zen was very adamant about black people supporting black people in black communities, but they are known to disregard that when it's time to get a joke off. Now, with all that in mind, we can now jump to the main conversation at hand. And gets hit with this meme right here. Meet potential, no accountability jobs, 72 hot takes, 37,800 tweets in 2 years, 26 years old. Where they'll be in 10 years, Uncle Ruckus image, hot take and real take, but never I'm sorry. Coon on the cob, only personality traits being Sonic and asshole. Sports games, how about you play some I'm sorry, that one was funny. And Zen basically was like, yo, I'm taking this as a joke. They think it's funny. In fact, they've sent their little name on Twitter to be potential, and basically laughing at the whole thing. And the way things developed was kind of ridiculous from that point onwards. And his back saying it's black people in my mentions being transphobic towards me over a clip niggas been posting. Y'all make think pieces on a joke, quote retweets talking about I'm inviting racist white people into black spaces. Whole time you don't even respect black queers. You see people attempting to call him out on this. Take accountability and let it go, bruh. Let go and don't address the transphobia. We can address it too, but you gotta deal with your part too. And then this is the conversation at hand where we gotta grab the screenshot. Someone calls him the F slur, monkey. You're a disappointment to your family, freak. And your target practice for police officers. So I hate using the term, but unironically, what we just had to bear witness to was in the most genuine sense ever, black on black warfare on the timeline. In this interaction and this quote retweet from Hood Genius, you see the 2 million views. If you hitting 2 million views on Twitter, that means you the main character now. Whole house mad. And now we look through Zenoshima. And this is the tweet. Now, Zen, as we mentioned beforehand, they are someone who I would like to believe, again, I don't know Zen personally. You might see the follows you in the tagline. I don't know them personally. We've talked maybe on a couple of occasions in Twitter spaces, but nothing deeper than that. I don't know this name. Y'all also don't know this name. But we'll delve furthermore into that. I said what I said. They've been saying homophobic and transphobic shit to me all day. If you're going to shit on me for my identity, I'm keeping the same energy, same simple as. Zen, like I said beforehand, I think if Zen got bombed, just like America did in Pearl Harbor, Japan as a country would not exist today. But let's touch on some of these replies and then we'll actually get into it. You're black, you posted this shit, and Matt's got a good laugh out of this. Now, I don't give a fuck white people now. I just thought the clip was funny. Go to therapy if you generally found this funny. I don't believe you're black. Y'all want me to be white so bad. I don't want anything. I just said if you're black posting shit like this, you're sad and have internalized hatred for your people, hence the therapy part. Twitter is such an interesting place. For years, I used my platform to speak on and shed lightness on anti-blackness, both online and offline, and I've gotten in so much shit over it just for everything to go out the window because of a Legends of Chamberlain Heights clip, LMAO. I've been making safe spaces for my people, informing my people on why you should love being black, uplifting black women, teaching the young ones, supporting black queers, etc. Here in IRL just to be in LTG conversations over a joke that started from black people, LMFO. Now we get into the real meat and potatoes of this because I got a bunch of takes I want to get off. I think this situation is slightly a bit overblown, particularly the portion surrounding the initial topic at hand, the conversation around sports and guns with balls games. I think more people should have looked at that, said this is just a corny joke, and went about their day. But that's not what happened. Zen is not immune to criticism. I think Zen lashing back at that individual Twitter user with more racist talking points of calling him target practice for police officers does show a conflict in interest in wanting to support your peers in your black community. Objectively, you can be looked at sideways for that, and I think people are right to call that out, especially when this is an in-the-house issue. This is a family issue in the sense that we are all black, okay? It's not a white person hopping in here and scrapping, because at the end of the day, all this situation did, and I hate to pull this race card in this manner, all you did, Zen, was make shit look worse for everybody. You could have a no-nonsense stand when it comes to disrespecting queer folk on the internet. And again, I'm not throwing out my identity out there, okay? I like my question mark, because y'all don't need to know more about me on this internet. God forbid I build a parasocial audience. But Zen can uplift their own community, but that should not come at the cost of you being ready to kick somebody down. You can't say you uplift your community and then punch back at someone and call them target practice for police officers. You just can't do that. That's a conflict of interest. It does objectively throw a lot of your goodwill out. I understand the sense of frustration. I understand how annoying it can be when you get jumped and words are taken out of context. Again, y'all might disagree with me in the comics, and God forbid, if you got a different take, let me know in the comments below. But I don't think the Legends of Chamberlain High clip was that bad for this to blow up in the way that it did. However, Zen's responses and Zen's constant inability to stand by their beliefs and consistently choose a side of, if you're going to uplift your black community, why are you role playing as a white on Twitter, whitewashing black actors? Literally, why? I get that you think it's funny. Hell, I even laughed at it because I was like, wait, this is kind of absurd at the sheer absurdity of it. But however, you can't do that and then talk about how you want to be there for your community. And it's good that you shed light on all of that, but being headstrong about this while touting yourself as pro-black when people already told you hours ago that your tweet could invite racist ass backwards. You see that, right? Y'all keep acting like I did that on purpose while neglecting the fact it's his Twitter referring to Elon Musk. You could say drinking water right now and get hit with 60 different slurs at once. By this very logic, I hope y'all keep some of that energy when they post the Aries Spear, some of us need to be slaves again clip. I've seen some, but again, my main takeaway from this is, one, as the black community, unfortunately, we took a loss today because this is no racist nigga we can blame this on. This all is inside the house. I've heard the saying we need to keep the house sacred, and in this case, man, we look like a goddamn fool. And again, I don't give, for the record, I don't care about respectability politics, but Zen shooting back at that, all it did was make shit worse. Everybody involved. I think as a whole, I'm a little bit drawn because I do believe that the initial joke of just, damn, they're black. If it's a corny joke, it's a corny joke. Come on. People on Twitter get a little bit too comfortable. They get a little too bit engaged and wanting to debate on the internet and get in conversations nonstop and thread on thread. At some point, you got to turn the phone off and go about your day. Zen, I don't think Zenoshima is going to improve from this. Zen has made a lot of questionable decisions and has continuously to do so time and time again, of doing 30 good things right, but doing one or two things that low-key ruins all that because you can't seem to understand. You can't talk to everybody like that. You can't call everybody a baboon porch monkey just because they disagree with you. Now, you can do that in private, right? If that's how you and your friends joke around, that's cool. Now, actually, I'm about to get a whole bunch of shit off my chest. We balling. Zen has had this issue of talking to their moots in a way that is cool when it's an inside joke. But when you take that inside joke on the outside, you can't be upset at people misinterpreting things. There's an incident involving a Twitter user who I'm not going to say because I don't want to draw more attention to that situation outside of getting my thoughts off on this video, where they made a joke that was really dumb for them to make. And in response, Zen called them a PDF individual, and this spawned a huge wave of people chiming in, people unrelated to the joke. Was the individual an actual PDF? No, Zen was just trolling him, but because it was out on public display, now everybody sees it and they start trying to get their licks in when they don't have the context of the situation itself. And that's kind of what happened in this. Zen either could have deleted the tweet or just walked away from all this, but instead they chose to double down and fight every individual that says something their way. Them resolving with Hood Genius in the original poster doesn't change the fact that they made themselves look, quite frankly, like an idiot trying to debate and argue with people who, to a certain extent, took offense with the way Zen was articulating themselves. And I don't think that's a weird take to have. I've always said on this channel, I use this channel as an outlet so I can communicate my thoughts. And if you disagree with this, fine, you're more than happy to. But I think the main takeaway I have is Zen, just do better. This is ridiculous, man. We out of here, though.